So it's been a while since I've done much with my research paper workflow, and I was still using the MD Notes workflow. Zotfile doesn't work anymore after Zotero version 6. The links back to Zotero, to the granular fine links for the extracted annotations didn't work anymore, and I just never had the time to actually figure out the Zotero integration plugin. But now that I have, thanks to awesome content from Danny Hatcher, I've finally got it set up for myself, and I'm going to show you what I've done. And I think it's amazing, and that this is the way to go for the Zotero integration for research papers and notes and annotations and stuff related to that. So, jumping right in, what do you need to do to get this set up? So, first of all, you're going to need to actually install the community plugin, make sure the plugins are active, browse for the Zotero integration plugin. And once you get that installed, make sure you're also going to read, the documentation, always double check. But there will be a plugin you need for Zotero. How do you get that plugin set up in Zotero? Well, you'll go to the link for it, and you will download the, let's see here, GitHub repo. I'll leave links to exactly like the download file. Like you don't even have to go to GitHub or anything. I'll just leave a download link in the timestamps. But you're basically going to download this .xpi file. And this file is is the plugin. You're going to download this to a folder. Then you're going to go to Zotero and go to Tools, Add-ons, and then from that folder, click and drag and drop that .xpi file in here. Just drag and drop it, and then that will install it. You probably have to restart Zotero, but then you're good. You want better BibTeX installed. Cool. So now that you have that installed and you've added the community plugin, we can go to Options, and this is when you configure all of your settings. I think there was a button here, but just clicking to set up the external PDF utility, it explains all these options. Where do you want your notes when you actually import them to land? I want them in my inbox. I think I left most of this to the defaults. Yep. I do have a citation command, which is just called cite. It uses an output format using a template. The template is just the cite key. This will come into play later. I'll show you that. My actual importing my notes format. This is the settings that actually govern when you're importing your notes into that file, the file that actually gets dropped into your vault. So my name of the command is just import paper. The path, where is the file and all of the content dropped, it's just going to be the inbox, and then the template portion here is just saying the title of the paper. So inbox/title of the paper.md is the file that is going to be created. Now, what if I have actually highlighted and, I've highlighted images as part of my note-taking, and I've even left annotations on those images in Zotero, which you can do if you go to, let me see here, fine and gross motor skills, blah, 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 open the PDF. You can actually select and highlight images. And usually if you have any trouble extracting images, you'll need to actually do a highlight like section or square. It's one of those things that supposedly it will grab what you're after. I'm not sure why this is not opening right now. Okay, so I'm not sure why it took so long to open this. I had to restart Zotero. But if you want to actually select an image, it's basically like doing a custom screenshot. In Zotero, you can do the select an area thing, and that is actually going to be basically an image capture. It's just going to capture that image. And when you see this captured thing here, I can actually add comments and even tags to just that annotation, an annotation on an image. So all of those images will actually be sent to Obsidian, and you can keep those images so you can actually reuse them in other papers. So if you need it, like if you have a facts and figures table like that table here, and I want to actually use this in another note and reference it, the image is going to be in Obsidian for reusability. Love reusability and modularity, especially when it comes to like APIs and microservices. So that's really handy. But where do we put all these images, and how do we reference them? How do we name them? I don't like to deal with these details. So one of the things that I set up and did this way is I have a folder called Media. And that media folder has everything in it. Images, PDFs, all kinds of non-markdown files. So inside of that media folder, we'll go over there, I have a new folder called Zotero. So Zotero, obviously, correlates to the papers where I'm going to put stuff. And inside of the Zotero folder, the cite key, the unique citation key for the paper I'm extracting annotations for, is the name of the new folder that gets created, and inside of that folder are the images that correlate to my notes that I actually highlighted in that paper. And then if I can grab this, it actually will prepend the cite key again to the beginning of the image file, but then there's actually a syntax here for like page number and then the XY coordinate of the actual selected area. So this is actually like details that you might need when you're citing and reusing these images. So I know this image is from that paper, so I can actually start typing the cite key. Yes, thank you, Thor. Jesus. He's helping the video. So I can actually use the cite key to reference this image, but then I know that it's on page 7, and so then I can just type cite key 7, there we go. It's gonna be this particular image right here. So this is just the way that I'm keeping them somewhat organized, but it's still automated. I don't have to file, rename, or do anything like this, but it still leaves it so that I can search for the citation key and then grab the image. But even remembering the citation key is like, oh man, that's gonna be a lot of work, right? Not with the second half of my new workflow, and I will show you that later. But this piece of information here, image output path, is what governs where those images are going to be stored. And you see the template portion here, cite key, that is what is creating the new folder based on what paper I'm extracting for, and it goes there. I could extract the same paper 5 times because I took new notes on the PDF. It doesn't matter, it's only going to extract new images. So all the images in that folder are only done once. So basically you don't have to worry about, now I have 500 files because I extracted it several times and now I have duplicates. No duplicates. It's actually really robust and awesome. The image base name, this is what I was talking about. So it'll use the page number and then the XY coordinate of that square you drew in the PDF, but the prepended name of it is the cite key for me, and that is what I liked. Then it says, what is the template file? This is the template, the single template file where all of your notes and the content and everything is going into. I only need one, and it's so much simpler than the MD notes templates where there's like several different files, what's going on, how does this work, yada, yada, yada. This is actually much more concise, though it is a little bit finicky because it's using nunjucks, or it looks like Jinja, a templating syntax, to actually implement a lot of the content, and it took me a little while to really get that configured the way that I wanted it. I might leave a link to like some of the documentation for Jinja and how this stuff works, but it don't overcomplicate it because it can get really, really finicky really quickly. The rest of this you can really basically ignore. I have some stuff in here, but you don't need it. And yeah, we'll just ignore that. So that's like the settings. I've installed the BibTeX plugin for Zotero. I've installed the plugin in Obsidian, and I have my template already made, and I'm ready to extract annotations. Well, let's look at what that template actually looks like. So if I go to my paper template, and this is what we're going to look at. Let me just make it visible. Okay. Hopefully this is big enough for everyone to read. So I do have my templated YAML front matter, and it's pretty much the same as a lot of my other templates, but for the aliases, because I name my my notes so specifically, you know, a special symbol, a date, and then the name of the paper, because I want to be able to search the names of my files for some keyword that might actually surface it in a search. It might not be the citation key, so I still want to make use of that citation key. So I actually leave the plain title without all of the excess metadata that I add to it, the character and the date, and the cite key itself as aliases to reference if I need to. The URL is if like there's like a web URL for the paper, or it's hosted somewhere else, or maybe it was a website that I clipped and it's saved as a PDF. This URL would then open up, or be the URL that would open up that item. The digital object identifier, DOI, is basically like the social security number of a paper, uniquely identifies that, and I usually really love DOI links. Love those things. Site key as its own piece of metadata, explicitly defined. I keep that because that is a very critical piece of all of this, is the unique site key to reference this paper. Keywords are the keywords in Zotero. So if I go to the actual paper in Zotero, let's find in, where did I just put that? We can just do alphabetical. Fine and gross motor skills is going to be the one I use for the example. There we go. So this one has tags over here. And these metadata tags are the ones that are actually going to get pulled over into the template using all tags. So authors and directors, this is all just basically the citable people who were a part of this. And that's just going to go into a YAML array, because the keywords are already going to be, actually I think I need to make that a YAML array as well, just in case. Type, status, these two are for the supercharged links plugin that I already have installed. I've made videos on that before, and that deals with CSS and other stuff, but that is why I have that. These two are really dealing with the update time on edit plugin, because I really like that. So then let's move on to the actual meaty portion of my template file. What is this thing? This specific portion of the template is something that I did for the research papers in Zotero to automatically rename them the way that I like, because I can't easily do it with some of the template portions that Zotero and these plugins give you, like site key and like whatever. So what I do is I actually take the title of the paper, which is, when it's made based on the Zotero settings, is just the title of the paper. But then I actually update it to rename using the special symbol, today's date when I'm doing the extraction, and then the title of the paper. So that actually gives me the full title the way that I like it without having to manually edit at all. So that's what that does. And then this, doesn't leave content. It just disappears afterwards, does the action. Super nice. This next callout portion of metadata gives me a link to the actual like Zotero PDF, like the URI link, show me the paper. That's what that link goes to. So it gives me that unique link. So if I have a dataview query for all my papers and all the notes that I've extracted, I can just give me a list of all of the Zotero links. I can easily just pop them open at will. The abstract, that's what you think. It's just going to drop all of the content for the abstract here. So again, in a dataview query, I could just look at all the abstracts for all of my exported papers that I wanted to look at any given point. Now here's your first little scene bit of the nunjux/jinja template syntax. Not a really big fan of this syntax, but it does allow some level of programmability, which does make it kind of handy. So in this, I'm really just going through the related papers, which is defined in Zotero, and then automatically inserting them into this metadata, again, for dataview. So the related thing would be, again, selecting this paper in this collection object here. So there's the paper PDF, but this thing has related. These other papers are related to this paper. So this is actually going to get picked up and placed here. Then I have a dataview query, and this is looking for some information from any note in my vault where the related, metadata contains the site key for my paper. Basically, does anything else refer to this particular extracted note by citation key? Is it related to anything else? And this will show everything else that is relating to this paper. Then I have like the general structure of my note the way that I already do it. I don't really even need this portion at all. I don't know why I keep that. But this is all, the same stuff I've always had. But then I have defined my actual highlighting scheme, which was already present in my tag taxonomy note. I've written it out here just so it's top of mind, front in your face when you're actually processing the notes. But it also just looks nice. Then we actually have, again, the meaty portion of the nunjux syntax. So mine, this is where among some other stuff. It really differs from Danny Hatcher's video and his simplified template. Not to say it's simple is bad, it's just his template is one way, mine is a different way. And I did mine specifically in this way for a particular reason. I wanted more visual aspects to my notes because the visual cueing works well with the way that my brain works and processes information, hence the colors, hence the emojis in my system. So we'll see what this is really doing, but basically for every annotation, if the annotation has text, then spit out that text using, put it inside this HTML element, and then place a link to that annotation, which is that Zotero link that kicks you out exactly to where that annotation is. If that annotation is an image, insert that image, which will also, again, put it into that folder under my media folder based on that stuff that I've defined. Then, these are all like if-then or if statements. So then we have one more, which is if the annotation has a comment. So basically in Zotero, if I have an annotation on the paper, which I did, and I add a comment to this annotation, that is what is getting extracted into this particular portion of metadata. Again, just some prompts for me to actually process and digest the paper, and that's it. Cool, so that is the template. So using this template, what is the workflow? So the workflow that I've set up is I've actually implemented some hotkeys to set this up. So inside of hotkeys, we can look at the Zotero integration plugin. And the ones I've defined are cite and import paper. So you can see I use Option Z or Option X. And on Windows, it would be like Alt or whatever you want to define. And I don't even need to have this template open. I don't need to have an empty note open. I don't need any of that to do what I'm going to do next. We're going to import a paper. So I want to import a brand new paper I don't have present. And I'll show you what it looks like when it gets dropped too. So inside of Inbox, I'm going to do the hotkey, Option Z. It's going to actually open up this bar. This is also the same bar that I believe that opens up when you actually insert citations inside of Microsoft Word when you have the Zotero extension. So I'm going to type find, and it finds that paper, fine and gross motor skills. I love this because I can do basically fuzzy finding searches for my papers and easily extract them like this. I don't need to click on anything. I can do a hotkey, I can type, and bam, this is awesome. I love keyboard-centric workflows. Enter. And that's, yep, I want that one. And I could select multiple papers, but I'm going to say just that one. Enter. Because I finished reading that paper, and I'm extracting it now, and I'm going to work on it. It's going to extract the annotations. I do have the setting set up to basically say, hey, when you extract a new paper, open that note immediately. But because I have that little templater syntax that renames that note, it kind of screws with that. But I don't care too much because I wanted it to be renamed the way that I like it to be renamed. I could probably extract that to a different template, but then more steps. So let's just move on to that particular paper. So here's what an extracted paper looks like. All those annotations, all that metadata, everything in here, all this information, related papers, the tags on this collection, the actual, I don't need to extract anything anymore. It's just the paper because the new Zotero 6 keeps all the annotations and all that stuff not on the PDF file, but inside the Zotero database or inside metadata there. So it's not really the paper anymore. So I don't even need to extract anything anymore. I don't need MD notes anymore. So friendship ended with MD notes. Zotero integration plugin is my new best friend. So we can see here are the aliases, the title, the site key, the URL. This is obviously not great. This is useless, so I might just delete that. Don't have a DOI there. Not a big deal. Don't care. Here's the site key. Here are all of the keywords. And so I don't use tags because the tags mean something different to me, but keywords for papers, that's what I want. Because now I can search for the keywords. Who are the authors? There we go. And again, these are arrays, so I can actually find these authors in other papers by doing dataview queries. Setting this up for dataview really opens up your vault and the information contained within it to a more programmatic approach of finding and hunting for data and information within your vault. So we have the stuff for the supercharged links plugin. We have the updating portions there. Here we go, metadata. Here's the call out, the Zotero link. This link, if I hover over it, is that Zotero URI link. So if I actually go to Zotero, close the paper, I'm in the library, I'm looking at something else, and I click this link, this opens up that PDF or that item inside of Zotero. Here's that item, Brian. Awesome. So then I have the abstract, which is just placed right here. That's super handy if I want to do a search for them. And then two of those related items. I'm sure the third one is because I don't actually have a file in it or some other wonky thing. But it, for each of those, inserted the related data view inline key value pair. So now, if I ever make and extract these papers to their own notes, they're going to show inside of this data view query this particular paper because I'm referencing them as related. And what that might also look like, when it pops up in here, is if I go to something like here, and I say related, and I use my other command, Option X, to insert the citation, it's going to open up that same bar to let me search for a paper. I'm going to search for the same paper, and it's going to insert the citation, fine, and gross motor skills, and not extract the notes, just put the citation where the cursor was. Then if I go to the paper and the extracted note, it shows you this file references my note here because it's using that citation key with the related tag. So this is a super powerful way of seeing the interconnectedness of your notes. But this also doesn't add the links in the graphs. So that is one potential downside of doing this way. But if that's not what you're using those linkages for instance, I don't want to have those links based on related papers because that's not the type of linking I want. I want to link my ideas and the notes together, not necessarily just understanding the relationships of papers. So I don't mind this. You might, in which case you might want to do something like actually having I did do the related and I inserted that citation key. What you might want to do is actually make it a link, but we'd probably have to do it inline. So again, this could probably be configured relatively easily. Actually, I might just do it fine and gross motor skills. What you might have to do for this, and see, here's the problem, is that because I'm not using the citation key to name my papers, you might, in which case that might work, this might work, is that if I instead use this as one of the inline ones, I could simply just make this an uncreated note, and now it would actually have the link, but also be metadata for data view like this. But because I actually use the name of the file and using my weird syntax, I'd actually need that to be there. So like this, and then actually using a reference or an alias to display it. So this is what I would actually need for my link, but I haven't extracted it, so it wouldn't work for me in the way that I have things set up. But if you rely on the cite key to name the paper, and that's cool with you, you could totally do this and keep the graph relations between the papers no problem. Because now if I open up the graph for this, it's actually pointing to this, well, it would be this, but it would point to that paper. So it really depends on how you want to do it. This works for me, but hey, options are available.
All right, editing Bryan here. I actually found a way for best of both worlds when it comes to using the cite key and actually making links for the related papers while still using my approach as well. So let's take a look at this. So inside of this Jinja template, there we go. What you can do is what I was showing earlier. Actually, I'm not sure if that's big enough still. So what I was showing earlier is using related, the data view key value pair inside the note, and then making a link to the cite key that you're trying to reference in the future. It doesn't exist yet as a note, but I'm not using the cite key as the name of the paper. I don't know what the date's going to be on it. I don't know what the title of the paper in this instance, and I don't want to have to go hunt it down. I want this all to be automated because this is just grunt work. What you can do is put the site key and then make the alias the site key. Because when I go to the settings and I go to the Zotero import settings, I can make the initial output path inbox site key, because this doesn't matter. I renamed the file because of that templater syntax in my template. So when it renames it to the site key, then the file actually will exist. And when I rename it, it renames itself, but it keeps the alias to the site key. So if I actually import this paper, again, using this new setup, you get the best of both worlds. Any day now. Fine and gross motor. You'll see that the link will now actually exist. There, the link exists. I can actually go to that note. Let's do that. So going to the note, here's one thing though. The dataview query is not picking it up because it's not just the site key anymore. It's the full link. But if I actually open up the graph view for that paper, you can see that the graph link exists. So I guess you could probably finagle this. Like, you could probably get dataview to work with it by using some string splitting functions. Let me see if I can go work on that and come back in a second. All right, we got it. So now in the dataview query, I'm just going to actually just write the ampersand, and I'm going to use templater to insert the date. And because the PDF through the extraction can give me the title, that's all I need. I don't need to use strictly Zotero templates for this. This will work now. So it does still rename the file, but this way I'm not depending on this link being renamed here. I'm automatically just going to create it this way as well. So let's finish setting up. If I go back to the Jinja file, I need to make sure before be there, we need to make sure that this is just the alias to itself. So we would say this alias to itself, that's related, and then the actual note needs to be extracted now. So if we extract it, it will then dynamically create that, and it'll show anything that was linking to this. So in this case, this Jinja note is any other paper I've already extracted that I wanted to reference in the future, the fine and gross motor skill paper that I am now extracting. So this, let's just say 3 months ago, I put that content into the Jinja template. Here, I'll just make it so you can see it too. Let's say 3 months ago, I'm working on notes. And inside of this note, that's just called Jinja for this example, I have that link to something that doesn't exist. It's just the site key referencing itself. But when I now extract the paper that it was supposed to reference by the site key, then it automatically renames itself. I don't have to do anything. And it will show those backlinks. The links exist in the graph, but it also shows anything that links to that paper. So this really depends on how much you want the links to be prevalent in your vault. Do you want it to just be between your notes? Do you want to use dataview metadata without all of the linking in the graph? This is a way to use basically both. So now, if I actually go to this paper and open that up, let's close some stuff here. Now, in the dataview query, you can see, hey, it's the exact name of the file based on all the template syntax we used, templater, hard coding of the symbol, and then the actual title of the paper, and it shows that Jinja links to it. But it also displays the actual site key because we're using the alias within Jinja. This is kind of the best of both worlds in this respect. You get the links, you display the site key, and you leverage the site key to basically turn into the title when you get there. So now, this will show anything that was related to this paper based on that site key, but it also has a link, because now if I show the local graph for my newly extracted paper, it actually hard links to anything that tried to link to it in the future. So maybe this will be a good part of your workflow. Take it or leave it. It's just some exploration. I just suddenly had to figure out how it works. But there you go. So
going back, that is where it would pop up in this dataview query, the template portions I have, and then here we go, my notes. This is why mine are a little different, is that I wanted my note items to actually be on bullet points so that I could actually make my notes as basically as sub-bullets, but doing bullets also makes it so I can more easily do block references in a way, but I like to do bullets, especially because when I extract the annotation comments on the actual extracted notes, it might leave a space here like this, but I can just backspace that, and now I have a child item here for this particular note, just like that. So options available. So again, so there is one problem with this particular one. That's this p-value thing using a less than symbol, which is why I have another template where I can actually use my escape codes and use a less than, and there use the HTML escape code, and then it actually displays the character but doesn't ruin anything. But here you can see the color key and the way that I actually take notes so that I can actually make sense of what's going on in these notes. And then here are the images. If I go to one of them, you can see here's the link, media, Zotero, this citation key, the name of this file, page 5, that coordinate, PNG. Nice. But then each of these annotations also has a link exactly to the point in the paper, like we were used to with the Zot file workflow. This is what I was missing, because now page 6, take me to that annotation, it takes you right there, the way that we really enjoyed. All of it right out of the box. Simply amazing. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So I have these, I have the highlighter plugin for one, and this is what it really works well with. So when I use the highlighter plugin, it uses the mark HTML tags, which I then have CSS for to target the highlighter color class, which is the template that was used. So if I go to the paper template, and go here, mark class highlighter dash, and then the annotation color category. This is coming from Zotero, because Zotero will extract the content and actually say the name of the color on the highlight, and that is actually getting dropped here automatically. So I don't even need to do anything to define the color of the annotation this way. I just use my existing infrastructure, and then it extracts all this stuff, and then I can just refer to my key and then go forward and process these notes. And because I don't like to iteratively resync a paper over and over again, I am only going to be doing these extractions once, and then this is going to be the literature note that I then work off of forevermore. If I need to get any new content, like new iterations of notes on a particular paper, the blue category, I'll simply just re-extract it. It goes to the inbox, I'll grab what I want from it, and then put that into the older literature note, because I don't need to have constant resyncing. It just be a pain to keep things correct when I'm dealing with different paradigms in Zotero, in Obsidian. So this is basically my workflow now, and it's super convenient. I wish I had done this move earlier, but the Zotero integration plugin is amazing. Definitely get on it. It looks a little complex at first, but it's actually so much easier to set up, to configure, to use, and it gives you all that functionality back that we were expecting from the MD Notes and Zot file plugin. Absolutely love it. I'm really happy that Danny Hatcher did a great video on it, because that helped me just dive right in and pick it back up. And yeah, this is how I'm doing my research paper notes from now on. And boy, do I have a lot of notes to go through, because I have at least 200 more papers to potentially go through based on a book I was reading. And that key that I have for highlighting...
Yeah, the reason why those colors are sort of important is that they correlate to not only what I'm doing in Zotero, but also, I've shown some pictures on like my social medias and posted around when I take notes on like a book. So like I actually use highlight colors and flag colors. You can't really see it very well at all, but like I have colored flags. I have the same taxonomy for what they mean as what it says in that Obsidian note. And all the flags I have on a book
are the colors of those flags. So I can tell based on the color of these things what the flag is indicating to me, and then the actual color of the highlighted text is all, the same colors that correlate to the flag. So the flag is just pointing out a highlight of the exact same color. And this is the same across all of the paradigms that I might do and take notes off of. So books, research papers, it uses the same color scheme because it's the same standard operating model that I can work off of. That, and I found some awesome book tabs that are in good enough, close enough Grovebox colors, and you know how much I love Grovebox. So if you want to get the flags or my highlighter pens that I use to keep everything Grovebox color and keep within this taxonomy, I'll post some Amazon affiliate links to those products, likely in the description in the pinned comment. I really like them. They're super inexpensive, but I already, you can see I used a ton of these flags. I need to buy more. That, and this is just an amazing book. So like literally so many annotations and highlights. This book is going to take me a while to process, and I got about 200 papers from the citations in this book to potentially read. So lots to do, lots to sift through. But that is my standard operating model, and hopefully you found this video useful, interesting, trying a new format, less introduction, less blah blah blah, more diving right in, and hopefully you enjoyed it. So I'll catch you all in the next one. If you want to join my Discord, that's where I lurk the most, and bye.